The Middle East is a region that extends from northeastern Africa to west central Asia. It is home to nations who share similar attributes, such as language and religion, with some select nations differing. One other thing that differs here is economic prosperity, with some nations being extremely wealthy and some being extremely poor. But why? Let's find out. The Middle East is a region of diverse cultures, religions, and histories that has been shaped by a multitude of civilizations and conflicts over thousands of years. Situated at the crossroads of three continents, Asia, Europe, and Africa, it has been a nexus for trade, conquest, and the birthplace of several major religions, including the three monotheistic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The earliest civilizations emerged along the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in Mesopotamia, where civilizations such as the Sumerians and Babylonians left enduring legacies. Meanwhile, ancient Egypt thrived along the Nile, contributing to the rich mosaic of the region's history. In the 7th century, Islam emerged on the Arabian Peninsula, uniting the region under a common faith. The Islamic Golden Age saw remarkable advancements in science, medicine, and philosophy, influencing the broader world. The Middle East witnessed the rise and fall of powerful empires, including the Ottoman Empire, which spanned 3 continents for centuries until its dissolution after World War I. The 20th century brought significant geopolitical changes, with the discovery of oil transforming the economic landscape. Modern conflicts such as the Arab-Israeli conflict has shaped the region's recent history, along with the Arab Spring movements that call for political reforms. The Middle East remains a complex tapestry reflecting the intertwining of ancient traditions and the challenges of a rapidly changing world. Today, economics also plays a crucial role in the Middle East, but some nations haven't been so lucky. There are some nations that have among the highest per capita incomes in the world, while nearby there are ones that have very low ones. In this week's episode, we are going to explore the economic disparities between Middle Eastern nations. First, we'll compare some to show these differences. Next, we'll look at some of the reasons behind the economic disparities. Then, finally, we'll see if there are any solutions to improve the economies of the poorer Middle Eastern nations. Before we begin, if you enjoy learning about geography and earth science, this is a channel to watch. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, Our World, Our Planet, Our Home. Let's get started. Let's start by comparing some of the economies of the Middle East, starting with the richest versus the poorest nation based on per capita incomes. The richest is Qatar, a nation of 2.9 million people east of Saudi Arabia. The GDP of Qatar is $328 billion, and the per capita income is little more than $114,000 a year, the 5th highest in the world. On the southwestern tip of the Arabian Peninsula is Yemen, with a population of 34.5 million people, nearly 12 times more than Qatar. But Yemen's GDP is only $70 billion, and its per capita income is $2,053 a year, the lowest in the Middle East and among the lowest worldwide. In terms of overall GDP, Turkey has the highest within the region of $3.2 trillion, while Yemen again is the lowest. One unique trait about the high disparities is associated with the Arabian Peninsula. Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia all have per capita incomes above $50,000 a year, putting them on par with advanced economies in North America, Europe, and East Asia. Oman, on the southeastern side of the Arabian Peninsula, has a per capita income around $35,000 a year, which is better than the world average, but not as good as its northern neighbors. But, besides Yemen, 2 other nations on the peninsula have fairly low per capita incomes, Iraq and Jordan, which both have incomes around $10,000 a year. Elsewhere, other poor nations include the ones located on the eastern and southeastern side of the Mediterranean Sea, including Egypt at $14,226 a year, Lebanon at $11,600 a year, the Palestinian territories at $5,800 a year, and Syria at only $2,900 a year. Yet, one other nation here, Israel, has a per capita income of $50,200 a year, significantly higher than its neighbors. And in the northeastern part of the Middle East, Iran, ethnically Persian, has a per capita income of nearly $20,000 a year, lower than the countries on the Arabian Peninsula. Now let's explore some of the reasons for the pronounced economic disparities. An obvious one is associated with oil. The economic landscape of the Arabian Peninsula changed drastically with the discovery and exploitation of oil resources. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait became major oil producers. Today, Saudi Arabia produces 13% of all the oil in the world, second only to the US. And the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait are in the top 10 of oil producers. But besides producing, Arabian Peninsula nations are on top of billions of barrels of oil, with Saudi Arabia having an estimated 266 billion barrels of oil reserves, second only to Venezuela. While the United States is the largest producer of oil, it's 11th in the amount of oil reserves, after Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. Producing oil and having reserves are different in that a nation may have lots of available oil, but if it's not being drilled, it's not profitable. Saudi Arabia and its rich neighbors have been drilling and producing oil for many decades, allowing their economies to grow substantially. Although oil can bring in great wealth, it's very volatile in terms of commodity prices. Another reason for the distinct economic disparities is diversification, or a lack of it. Many of the richer nations on the Arabian Peninsula have diversified their economies. The United Arab Emirates, particularly Dubai and Abu Dhabi, have been at the forefront of economic diversification in the Middle East. While oil remains a significant contributor to the economy, the UAE has successfully developed sectors such as tourism, real estate, aviation, and finance. And Saudi Arabia has launched the Vision 2030 initiative, which aims to reduce the country's dependence on oil by diversifying its economy. The plan includes investments in sectors like tourism, entertainment, technology, and renewable energy. However, nations such as Jordan have struggled to create a flourishing, diversified economy. Jordan has a lack of oil reserves, which hasn't allowed its economy to grow as strongly as its southeastern neighbors. The nation is trying to strengthen its economic sectors to draw outside investment in, which has worked to an extent. Still, Jordan is considered a low-middle-income nation. In other parts of the Middle East, economic diversification is a mixed bag. On the Mediterranean Sea, Israel is considered the only high-income nation despite having a few amount of natural resources. Israel is known for its innovative economic sectors, including biotechnology, cybersecurity, and telecommunications, as well as having a strong educational system. And Israel has one of the most stable political systems in the Middle East. Northwestward, Turkey has diversified their economy into the secondary and tertiary sectors, and the nation has become more Eurocentric in recent years. Geopolitics and economies intertwine with each other, which leads to the next reason. Several Middle Eastern nations have considerable geopolitical issues. Syria has the most, in that the nation has been in the midst of a civil war, now a frozen conflict, since 2011. This has led to severe economic dysfunction, plummeting GDPs and per capita incomes. For decades, Iran has been seen as a possible threat to the Middle Eastern region, particularly Israel, and has been accused of using its nuclear program to create weapons. This has led to international sanctions, particularly those imposed by the United States and the European Union. These sanctions have targeted Iran's energy, banking, and other key sectors, limiting its access to international markets and hindering economic growth. And internally, Iran has begun seeing a rise in revolting citizens, especially associated with the status of women. On the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen has its fair share of geopolitical problems. For one, the nation has an ongoing civil war since 2014, leading to a humanitarian crisis. This event has drawn in terrorist organizations into the nation, including Al-Qaeda and ISIS, further destabilizing the nation so much it doesn't even have a permanent government. Furthermore, another current geopolitical problem that has become worse in the last 5 months is the Israel-Palestinian conflict. On October 7, 2023, Hamas launched a terrorist attack on Israel, killing hundreds of Israelis, which then started a conflict that has led to thousands of deaths, especially Palestinians on the Gaza Strip. Because of this, the Palestinian territories will further see economic dysfunction, and if the war continues, it may ultimately affect Israel's economy. What are some solutions to create an equalization of economies within the Middle East? The first and foremost solution is stabilizing geopolitical problems, which is way easier said than done. Currently, the most unstable sovereign nations are Syria, Yemen, and Iraq. Syria and Yemen are in the midst of internal conflicts, which has severely destabilized both nations, and also introduced Islamic extremist groups. Historically, Iraq was a dictatorship under Saddam Hussein, accused of making weapons of mass destruction, which led to the 2003 invasion of the nation by the US and coalition forces. This invasion overthrew Hussein, but in many ways further destabilized the nation. And today, Iraq still has a lot of internal corruption, civil unrest, and influence from Islamic extremist groups. Syria and Yemen are both even in worse shape in that both nations have incredibly dysfunctional governments. Having governments like this obviously is adversely affecting both nations' economies. The modern Israel-Palestinian conflict has been ongoing since the creation of Israel in 1948. Since then, the region has been mostly in a frozen conflict, with some small wars in between, but this ended in October 2023 with the start of an all-out war between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip has been under Hamas control since 2007, and Hamas is regarded as being a terrorist organization. And Hamas, as well as Hezbollah associated with Lebanon, has support from nations such as Iran. Pretty much, the whole situation is a mess that likely will not resolve anytime soon. Secondly, once geopolitical situations are sorted out, these nations could try to bring outside investment to fuel growth of their economies. For example, Yemen is a physically scenic nation with a coastline on the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea, and coupled with a warm year-round climate, tourism can be a possibility, although summers are extremely hot. Iraq has immense amounts of oil reserves and can start to drill and produce it more to become a major exporter, and once money is made from that, they can diversify their economy. Unfortunately, Syria probably has the most challenges out of the Middle Eastern nations, so it will be a long time until their economy can turn around. A third and final solution is associated with the whole region, and that's human rights. Even in the richest of Middle Eastern nations, human rights are neglected, since several of them are considered absolute monarchies run under Sharia or Islamic law, including Saudi Arabia, Oman, and the UAE. Also, Qatar, the richest nation in the Middle East, is classified as an authoritarian semi-constitutional monarchy. In fact, the only secular nation in the Middle East is Turkey, and even Israel is not secular considering there are some aspects of Judaism associated with the government. Although fundamentalist governments will continue to reign supreme in this region, a change to a more democratic form of government may further economic prosperity and increase human development. Over the course of its history, the Middle East has been one of the most contentious regions in the world. The basis for this is that the region is the hearth for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and since each have crucial differences, this has led to disputes, some of which may never end. This issue does create economic dysfunction, which then negatively affects the populace of the most unstable nations. While there are solutions that can be implemented, it'll be extraordinarily hard, if not impossible, to do so. What do you think of the economic disparity situation in the Middle East? If you want to leave your opinion on the subject, please do so in the comment section below. That concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you enjoy geography and earth science, please subscribe to my channel, Our World, Our Planet, and Our Home. Until next time!